Ledodi. I want to just review something that we said yesterday that we learned. Look at the beginning of the second paragraph on Yud Aleph, or the first paragraph. V'hinei noide shebe'elul huzman es galus yudgimu midas harachamim. It's known that Elul is the time when the 13 attributes of Rachamim are revealed. Yesterday, I did not explain that itself, that line itself, is a question. What's the question? Before we get to the Lahav and Zeh, so I want to make sure that we learn correctly the text. The question is, if Elul is the revelation of the 13 attributes from God's perspective, then how do we say that Elul is a Serusa Dilatata? What we learned till now, we pointed out very clearly and elaborately that the month of Elul is about us approaching God and initiating the relationship. So the Alter Rebbe now says here, he asks two questions. The first of which is, wait a minute, it's known in Kabbalah that Elul, there is God's revelation called Yugim Mizrachim. So who begins the process in Elul? Not us, but God. That's the first question. How can you tell me it's Isarusa Dilatata? We begin the relationship. We initiate it when in Kabbalah it says that it's begun by God, vis-a-vis, shining into the world the 13 attributes of Rachamim. That's his first question.
Is that what the Maimon said that's Chodesh Nisan?
Oh, no. Okay, wait, stop for a second. Let me say the second question, and the second question is Lahav and Zeh. If we accept and we understand that Elul, God shines the 13 attributes, so why aren't they holidays and Shabbos like we explained yesterday? Those are two separate questions. But it's two questions. Regarding your question, like I said it, I'll say it again. When you talk about the comparison between Tishrei and Nisan is Arusa Delayla, it begins with God, and Tishrei begins with us. But here in the Maimer, he's not talking about the comparison between Tishrei and Nisan. He's talking about the comparison between Elul and Tishrei. Yes, Yaakov.
So then, it would be an Isrusa Dilaela as far as El is concerned, right?
What'd you say? What?
It would be an Isrusa Dilaela as far as El is concerned, right?
That's the question that he's asking. That's what he's asking here. Since if you tell me that Hashem shines the Yud Gimel Sarachimim, so it's Isrusa Dilaela. Did you understand what I just said?
I think so.
Until here, we began with the pasuk Ani Ledodi Likutei Torah, implying it's a Serusa Dilatata. So now wait a minute, he's asking a question. What are you telling me? It's a Serusa Dilatata if it begins with the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, which is a Serusa Dilaela. That's his question. Moshe's question about Nisan is not. We're not discussing Nisan here. So, if you want to talk about real, let me answer your question another way, Moshe. If you want to talk about real Isarusa Delayla, that's Nisan. The real Isarusa Delayla that is Nisan. That's true. So, this Isarusa Delayla is not the real Isarusa Delayla. That's the answer to the first question. What type of Isarusa Delayla is the Yud Gimel Sarachamim? It's just one that makes it possible for you to work, to accomplish. In other words, you have to be what I call in the zone, the timing, the location. All that is created by the Isarusa de Le'ela that's there for the purpose of the Isarusa de Latata, but the main avoid of Elul is a Isarusa de Latata, not a Isarusa de Le'ela. And the fact that there's an Isarusa de Le'ela of the Yugim Sarachim is only there as an aid, an ozer, help to put you in the right place at the right time. But if you don't work, nothing will be. You can have all the Yud Gimel Sarachim shining all day and all night throughout for 30 days, and it means nothing to you. Because this month is the month of accounting. In other words, let's talk about a business. Let's talk about a business. If you don't make the cheshbon of profit and loss statement, even if you have the best accountants and the best lawyers and the best advisors, if you yourself on the ground don't deal with it, there will be no change. I see this in my book work and book business. You know, what I write them, right? I can have the best product, but if I don't advertise and market, the book sits in the basement. It ain't going anywhere. I have to get up, and that's what I'm doing actually these weeks, is marketing my book on Reb Yoel, right? I want the book to sell. I want people to read it. I want people to understand and all that, and to grow in Avodas Hashem, right? So I have to spend time, and lots of time. On the other hand, when people get a mailing, a book of Reb Yoel, I should get 500 orders in a day. It don't work that way. Especially when it costs money. Especially when it's a little more expensive than the average Art Scroll book. So you gotta work. It doesn't, there's no quick fix. So, but I got a good product, right? So the good product would be analogous to the Sarusa de Le'ela. The month of Elul, we have a good product available, which is opportunity for growth and change and all that. But if you don't take the bull by its horn and work with it, nothing will be. Okay? Nothing will be. Now you might say, well, if that's the case, what's special about Elul? Throughout the year, Velvel, it's all just the same thing. If I don't daven, I don't learn and all that, no. The answer is, if you're not in the right timing, when there's Yud Gimel Midas Harachim is shining, there's only so much you can reach. You can't reach more because you're limited. Let's give another example. Velvel, I hope you'll appreciate this and tell me if I'm wrong. But you're a physician, and you're at a certain hospital, and you have your knowledge, and you're a surgeon, and depending on what hospital you're in, you accomplish more or less. Because, there's a Brooklyn hospital, and there's NYU and Columbia Presbyterian and Cornell, top hospitals. And I've been to all of these, at various times, and you see a difference in the quality. So sure, my mother's physician, Dr. Demetis, who already passed on, was a tremendous physician, a tremendous doctor, really a great, but he was in a pretty crummy hospital. I don't want to say, but not the best hospital. So how much can he accomplish already? So he could accomplish as much as he's allowed to accomplish given the environment and what he's provided. You take the same physician and you put him into a John Hopkins or another major facility which is known to be very progressive and modern and works well with the staff and everything. As a world-recognized hospital, the accomplishments will be much greater. Well, using that as an example, it's Chodesh Elul and you give him Musarachamin. If you give him Musarachamin tells us that we have the right opportunity and the right location and the right time. But now you have to make it happen. At the same time, if you work hard to make it happen, and from God's part, He doesn't lend a hand, there's only so much you can do. So that's why it's necessary for there to be a Serusa de Le'ela that precedes the Serusa de L'Tata, but it doesn't take away the fact that the main avodah of Chodesh Elul is Serusa de L'Tata. Okay, now the Alter Rebbe will start answering this question. This is now the last two words on the fourth line on page Yud Aleph of the paragraph. Achine Yuven al pi moshel. that Alter Rebbe says will understand an answer to these two questions based on the famous on a mashal, on a parable. L'melech, there's a king. Shekoidem bo'u le'ir, before he comes to the city, yoitzin anshe ha'ir, the people in the city hear that the king is coming this king is coming, and likrosoi, they go to greet him, umekablam ponav b'sada. But guess what? They don't greet him in the city. Why don't they greet him in the city? We'll talk about that soon, or the next year. They greet him in the field. And why? Because he says, I don't want to meet you in the city. I want to first meet you in a field. I want to meet you in the wilderness, outside, in the city. I'm sorry, in the Sada. Look further. Look at the... Umekablim ponav b'sada, and they receive his face. They greet him in a field. V'oz rashoyin kol misheroitz, and then anyone that would like is permitted lotzei shelahagbel ponav, to go out to the field and greet him. Okay, now they're in the field and they're greeting him. V'hu, he the king, mekabel es kulam, he receives all the people in the field. With a beautiful face, with a smiling face, and he smiles and laughs at all of them. In other words, he's happy to see them. And now he's finished meeting them in the field, whoever came out to see him, and he returns back to his palace, which is in the city. They love this king so much that he took time to meet him that they decide to go back. Next page, top of Yud Beis. And afterwards, when they come to his palace, they do not enter, only those that are granted permission. And says the Alter Rebbe, and even amongst those are only those that are the choicest of the people, v'yechidei gula, and very privileged individuals. Here ends the mashal. Okay, the mashal finishes here. So to repeat the mashal, we have a city and we have a field. The king comes from the city to the field. Why? Because he wants to greet the people, and he knows that the average person will not be coming to the city, to the palace. Although they live in the city with him, they know you can't get into the palace. So he decides, I like my people, and I want my people. So I'm going to go out to a place where it's a free-for-all, and everyone can come. And you don't need to be dressed a certain way and behave a certain way. You can be, as we say in Yiddish, a freie Feigl. Yaakov, translate. What's a freie Feigl mean? Yaakov, freie Feigl. A what?
A free bird, no?
Exactly. And in English it doesn't really... But in Yiddish, it's a beautiful expression. A freie Feigl, a free bird. You can do whatever you want. So you don't have in the palace. You have to be dressed a certain way. You need to make an appointment and all of that. In the field, the king says you can come day and night. Whenever I'm there, I'm here to greet you. And when he sees them, he doesn't see them with his garments, because he also comes into the field. This doesn't say in the mashal, but it's explained in the Maimarim of the Rebbe. He comes into the field dressed like them. Because if he were to be dressed like the king in his palace, they would feel uncomfortable. Just like last night, probably some people felt uncomfortable seeing me with my black robe and my hat, and they're just, dressed weekdays, and I'm dressed more Shabbos, right? So the dressing itself and the demeanor and the facial expressions and the body movements, the king says, I got to be like these guys. So he dresses in his golf course pants and his sweatpants, and he's one of the guys, and he's wearing dungarees and jeans and shorts, whatever he's doing. And they're having a party in the field, and he says, what can I do for you? And this one says, I need parnos, and this one says, I need this connection, yes, and all that. And then it's time to go back to the palace. He can't stay, he comes from the palace, so he goes back. And they love this guy. They love this. He's like one of us. He really is normal. He's not this holy roller, because look at him. He was just with us and kibitzing and joking and having a good time. Well, he goes back. And when he goes back, he goes into his palace. The door's locked behind him. And now you need an appointment, and you need to dress up, and you need to be better. And then he says, wait a second. You can't all come in. I got to know your qualifications. I got to know that you don't have any guns to kill me. I have to know that you're normal and everything else. This is the mashal. Let's look inside. Let's learn the inside, and then we'll explain if there's time. If not, next week. Says the Alter Rebbe, it's exactly what's happening in Chodesh Elul. Yoitzin lahagbil or ponav yizborech besada. We go out to greet Hashem in the field. A very brief, almost unexplainable, at least in words, of how the moral fits the parable. You have a mashal and you have a nimshal. Look. The Alter Rebbe spent about, 20, 25 words of describing the mashal, the parable. When it comes to the moral, to the nimshal, it's 10 words or so. And even those words are kind of esoteric and secretive and cryptic. How is it in the nimshal that it identifies every iota of the mashal? The Rebbe spent 42 years taking apart this mashal of the Alter Rebbe, and it's printed, and some people have actually published kuntris, a pamphlet with all of the Rebbe's explanations on this mashal. But briefly, very briefly now, and the next year, Mitzvah Shem, on Monday, not Sunday, we'll elaborate. Briefly, Chodesh Tishrei is analogous to the king returning to his palace. To get in on Chodesh Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, Aseres Yemei Tshuva, and Yom Kippur, and then the other Chagim, you need clothing, it's Yom Tiv, you need a shofar, and you need to fast, and you need to dance, and you need a sukkah. I'm sorry, and a lulav, and an esrog, right? There are conditions. You can't just come naked. It doesn't work. But the month of Elul is not week. It's not holy days. That's the answer to the second question. It's like analogous to a field in comparison to the city and the palace. So the palace would be like Shabbos and Yom Tov. And Chodesh Elul is analogous to the weekdays. And that's why they're weekdays. And they're not Yom Tov and Shabbos. Because if they were Yom Tov and Shabbos, the average person would say, how do you, God, expect me to do tshuva and do the work of Elul when you're putting conditions on me all month? It's enough. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and Simchas Torah, I have many conditions. And Baruch Hashem, it's a great month of holidays. But nevertheless, you need to have it. There are conditions, prerequisites. Elul is a free-for-all. There's only one thing you have to do, Elul. Show that you care. How do you show that you care? You have to go out to greet the king. And guess what? That the king cannot force on you, because everyone has free will. Right? Just like in the mashal. In the mashal, look what the Alter Rebbe says. He says that the king goes out to the field, but then he says everyone has permission. But if you don't utilize the permission to come visit him in the field, You're going to remain on your couch in front of your television or whatever you're doing at home or at your work, and you ain't meeting the king. Free will is never removed from a person. It's a truthful tenet in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, and it never is removed. And therefore, there's one thing that we need to initiate during Elul, which is the Isarusa Dilatata of Kabbalah soil. Get off your couch and off your chair and go out to the field. But you have to say that. If someone else says it to you and forces it upon you, it won't last. You have to want to meet the king. And for that, you need to realize that he's the king, but he's the king in a field. Although I told you before, he's dressed the way we're dressed. And he doesn't, have those same restrictions as he has in the palace. Nevertheless, who are you looking at? You're looking at the king. But he's the king in the field. And if you don't recognize that he's the king in the field, you're not coming to greet him. Right? Imagine, Lahavdil, the president comes to your city. Whoever, right? If you have no respect for him, he could be the president, the shmesident, you're not going to visit him. So the Alter Rebbe says here in the Moshul, and so it's true in the Nimshul, the Chodesh Elul is the time. That's why we emphasize it's Isarusa Dilatata Yaakov. The emphasis of Elul is we have to initiate serving God. This is the month. If we don't initiate it, we're going to remain in our house. The king can be jumping up and down, making somersaults in the field, giving out money, giving out blessings, and we don't care. And this is what the Alter Rebbe says. This is the month of Elul. So what we're left with and what we go into Shabbos with is there's opportunities now. Don't squander the opportunities. That's very. We've been taught that there's 13 attributes of mercy out there now. Great. We've been taught the king is in the field. No. What are we doing about it? That's Elul. Elul is the time when you have to, like I told everyone yesterday, it's nice to fabrang and have wings and whiskey, and it's all wonderful, but you got to do something about it. And what I suggest as we go through Elul, come at the conclusion of Elul, take one thing that needed correction for the previous year, one thing, not more, and make a resolution to work on correcting that, whether it be procrastination, whether it be anger, whether it be ego, whatever, something in character, and so too one mitzvah that we were weak in, either asay or lo sasay, and work on that this month, the next 3 weeks. And so you come to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you have something to present to Hashem. Hashem, this issue of character I thought about, and I would really want to work on changing and improving. And so too with a certain mitzvahs asay or mitzvahs lo sasay. And if we come into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur with this, I'm telling you that it's gewaldig. It'll help you, it'll help your spouse, it'll help your children, your grandchildren, your friends, because it's concrete. The Rebbe always said, he quoted the Russian language that Velvel can tell us, Taporu da plachu. Taporu da plachu means the axe to the wood. Is that correct, Velvel? Did I say it right? Yeah. Taporu da plachu. I mean, I heard this from the Rebbe hundreds of times, which means, and Hasidim would repeat it, Taporu da plachu means you can have an axe in one hand, and you can have a piece of wood in the other hand. If you don't apply the axe to chop the piece of wood so you have smaller pieces to make a fire, the axe remains in this hand, and the wood remains in this hand, and it says, gur nisht, nada, klum, efes, nothing. But I have an axe. and have a piece of wood. But you didn't apply yourself, the axe to the wood. So the bottom line that Rebbe would say is, taporu daplachu, apply the axe to the wood and you'll have results. Chevra, everyone should have a great Shabbos Shoftim. And it's the Shloshim of Rabbi Yoel Khan, Vav Elul, he passed away, Vav Of. So say L'chaim for his neshama, his name, he had one name, Rabbi Yoel ben Raphael Nachman HaKohen. His father's name was Raphael Nachman, they were Kohanim, they go back to Rabbi Fol Hamburger of the 1600s, Ben Achaben, son after from, one after pedigree goes all the way back, and Rabbi Raphael Nachman Rabbi Raphael Hamburger was a follower of the Vilna Gaon, but he was introduced to the Baal Shem Tov, to Chassidus, and he did not sign on the excommunication against Chassidut. He was impacted by Chassidut. He didn't become a Chassid, but he was moved to the point that he would refuse to sign, and he was a big man, and he was a big Litvak, meaning to say a Litvish Goin. So they say that Rabbi Yoel's family goes back to that to him. So anyway, it's a Shloshim, the Shamash Avan Aliyah, and there's going to be a big Zoom today online, and Monday night they're doing the whole thing in Brooklyn. Le'ilu Nishmasai, I would imagine there's something going on in Eretz Yisrael, but I didn't hear. And the Able should help that we should only have Mashiach and Simchas. Everyone should have a great Shabbos. And we'll see everyone Monday, not Sunday. Take care. Sei gesund. Good Shabbos. Yes. What?
Today's my birthday. Wishing everybody lots of brachos, simchas, and health.
Your birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, why did you hold a secret? Mazel tov. He's 25 years old. Give us brachas. Everyone should have. Go ahead. Give us brachas.
We should only have bracha, atzlacha, and parnasa b'shefa.
Amen.
And health and wealth.
And atzlacha with our children, and to find shidduchim, and all those things. Thank you, Yaini, for your brachas, because a yid's bracha, especially on the Yom Haledes, the Rebbe always said, Mazloi goiver, your good mazel dominates today. And that's why when we give a bracha on a Yom Haledes, it's not just another bracha, it's coming with a mazel. And a mazel connects to the heavenly abode. It has a special koyach. So thank you very much.